We have big news coming up this week. We have the Feds talking, and also I am up 3,000 US dollars on my master short. All of that covered and more on today's episode. Let's get started. Guys, this is going to be a weekly video on Bitcoin, so let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, I want to show you guys something. I'm doing a master giveaway of $1,000 in USDT. All you have to do is watch this pinned video and everything will be explained there. Let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be a weekly outlook video on Bitcoin. The way I like to do this is top-down approach, and we're going to look at it from the weekly and move into the smaller time frames. We can establish a few things. Number one is we have this trend line that has been broken. It looks like we have a clear breakout and it's going to be moon boys in full effect, but we haven't had another weekly close above this trend line for about 2 weeks now. Another thing to consider is the resistance from the death cross on the weekly. This is the first time in Bitcoin's history that we've seen such a thing. I believe that now we will be rejected. You can see that this week is starting off sort of in a small doji, and there's a reason why it looks like this. Typically before we have huge master economic events such as the Fed's talking about interest rates, we have small volume trading prior, or maybe even some small bullishness. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a midweek pump right before these meetings, and then depending on their stance on the meetings, we will see the appropriate reaction from the cryptocurrency markets. As of right now, what I'm predicting is we're going to get a pump in price, and then eventually once the meeting occurs, we'll have some sideways action. And depending on the news, what the Feds decide to do with interest rates, we will then see a either decline in price or an increase in price. Some of the news that we had last month regarding the job openings and crude oil inventories and job claims February and January, they weren't too great. So I believe that right now we're going to have a very hawkish Fed meeting. So keep that in mind when you're trading, and best of luck when it comes to that. Okay, let's go back to the charts. One of the things I want to show you guys on the weekly is what I was talking about earlier, which is basically we're going to have some small volume occurring. We might have a wick up in the beginning of the week, and then I think we'll have the continuation of the sell-off. I don't know how well this $21,000 support will hold, but if it doesn't hold, it's going to be a clear drop all the way down to 18,000. So keep that in mind when you're trading. Right now is a very hard time to trade unless you've been in a position where you feel like you're relatively safe. Whereas I've entered my short at 24,000. Another thing I want to point out to you guys on the daily time frame is very important, okay? Now, just looking at price action alone, this is a telling sign that there is going to be more downside to play. And the reason being is because we had a huge move to the downside, about 5%, and we had a strong consolidation without a regathering of pretty much the halfway point of this candlestick. So what I'm expecting to occur is a continuation of the downtrend. We might have some consolidation around this 21,000 to 21,500 range, and then possibly head lower. But up until the meeting, I can't really tell you much, which is Wednesday. So right now you guys have to sit tight and be careful when you're trading on these Bitcoin trades. It's a very difficult market to trade, especially when the Feds are giving such an influence on the reaction of prices, and retail really doesn't have much to say. One of the arguments for the bulls is we are on a upward sloping trend line that is showing decent amount of support. But remember, if this trend line breaks, I do expect this to head all the way down to this $18,000 level. An argument that's made by the bulls is we have 1, 2, and 3 touch points here, and if the support holds for a few more days, we might come up. Although that does look reasonable, I do not think that this upward sloping trend line is going to hold well, only because of the price structure that we're seeing in correspondence to this. And what do I mean by that? On the daily time frame, you can see nice rounding tops. And these rounding tops, I always talk about them on my YouTube channel, are showing signs of weakness in price action, which is basically a topping formation. If you want to counteract that mentality, you can see that there's a rounding bottom in this scenario, where you can argue that the bull case is very likely in that scenario. So I think that the bear scenario is going to play out this week. It's just a matter of time. We have a massive M pattern on the daily time frame. We're testing a key support, and then if we do break to the downside, you take the base of the M pattern to the height, and that right there will give you your target, and it falls perfectly with the $18,000 range that I keep telling you guys that might be the straight shot down to there. Now, if we look at the 4-hour time frame, if you're trading on a smaller time frame, I want to show you guys one more thing with the 50 and 200 EMAs. We may come up and retest the 50 EMA. We had a death cross on the 4-hour time frame, as you can see here, and I think that if we do come up prior to the meeting, we'll come up as high as 22,800. We will touch this, and I think that we'll get the rejection that we're waiting for, and then we'll finally head down. Now, if we go back to the monthly candles, which is we had a new monthly open for Bitcoin, you can see that we've had a very indecisive candle. All in all, though, I think that this candle is a telling tell of something. So if you're looking at the 50 EMA, which is this white line, you can see that Bitcoin is respecting the resistance, and fortunately we cannot break above. We had a very strong candle to the upside in January. We had this doji candle here for February, which basically means we're indecisive, and now we're seeing the follow through in March, and I believe that now this month will be the capitulation month, and hopefully sooner or later we will wash out all of the weak hands, and that will bring us to the lows that we're waiting for. On the flip side, you can argue the bull case, which is we can finally break above this. Any consolidation under resistance is a healthy consolidation. So there are two very strong arguments here. I think March will be the month where we determine exactly where Bitcoin will go, and you just have to be patient. And that's something I thought I would point out to you guys. We do have a new monthly candle, and I never pointed that out on this channel, so I thought I would show you guys. Keep an eye on this. These are very telling. Don't forget, if you guys haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you guys find this information helpful. If you have traded any of my signals, please let me know. I'd love to see the results. Second of all, I am up $3,000 on my trade. I want to say thank you to everyone that's been watching this. It's very rewarding not only to be posting these videos, but to show you guys that I'm actually trading and doing well. 21% on this trade. Last but not least, be aware of these meetings, you guys. Do not trade right before these meetings. You get insane amount of volatility. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys take care. Good luck trading.